Good evening. Talk is turning tricks using action filters, hooks, and WordPress. So a little bit about who am I and why you should listen to me. My handle is Jack Reichert, and I build web stuff. I've actually been using WordPress since Stan Getz. That's 2.2. And everything I know I taught myself from Google, which I hope can be an inspiration for anyone who's trying to become a developer. It can be done. Just keep asking questions. Ask anyone you can. Now I'm a lead developer here in Midtown New York. So just keep at it until you get there. So what will we cover in this talk? What are hooks anyways? There's a confusion exactly what they are. Are they actions? Are they filters? Are they both? What is it? How do I use it? Hooks out in the wild. I'm going to cover a bunch of places where you can find them and how you can leverage them. Tips and tricks, the top 5. I wouldn't say they're the top 5, but they're 5 fun tips to use your hooks, and how to spin your own hooks. So before I move forward, how many people out here are developers? I know this was asked before, but okay, a nice amount of you. If you're not, I hope that this will give you just a general understanding of how WordPress works and things you can do with it. If you are, I hope that you'll be able to learn something. So before I move forward, for the really advanced WordPress developers, there's a talk on WordPress TV by Allison Barrett called Advanced Actions and Filters. There's a link here. I'll be posting this later. And this talks about how WordPress does the magic of hooks and filters. I'm not really going to go into that. I'm going to go into more of the other two things, putting the code into the functions of PHP and understanding a little bit more about what it is, and then being happy. So what are hooks anyways? Number one reason why there are hooks is so that you don't mess with the core. One of the things that makes WordPress so incredibly powerful is that you can build on top of it. If there are things that you don't like in the core, you need to change some functionality in the core files. We're not talking about themes or plugins yet, but just the core of WordPress. You don't want to go in there. There are so many blog posts or vlogs that I've seen where the podcaster or the blogger is talking about how they, years ago, months ago, they changed something in the core of either a plugin or theme that was built by someone else, or the core of WordPress, and then they forgot about this change they made, they upgraded, and they lost their changes. And that's really bad, because then you have to figure out what you did, and you have to go back. Hooks are there so you can hook into the core and run functions, methods, filters, change things without actually going into the core and changing it in the file, so that when you upgrade, it'll work seamlessly. So what's the difference between actions and filters? So actually, both actions and filters are two different types of hooks. So when I say hooks, I'm referring to both actions and filters. Actions do things, filters change things. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Plugging into everything. So I mentioned that before. It's not just so that you won't change things, it's so that you can enhance things as well. So if you're building a plugin, you might want to think about adding in actions throughout the actions and filters throughout your plugin, so that if other people love the basic functionality of your plugin and want to change things, they'll be able to. I'm trained as a front-end developer. That's how I found my feet. One of the powerful things about JavaScript is event-driven programming. This allows you to do that in PHP server side. I'll talk about that a little bit later. It's one of the things I like about hooks. And there are really bad puns. I myself am guilty of that. But many of the blog posts that are about hooks and filters will mention something about fishing or reeling it in, etc. So I mentioned before, both actions and filters are hooks. But actually, if you look in the core, actions are filters. This is some code from the core file plugins.php, and it's code for the add action method. And if you look at it, it's just one line. I'll have this up later if you want to see it. It's one line. It returns a filter. So if actions are filters, what's the difference between them? Well, with programming, it's very important that your code is clear. And so these were split up into two different things so that when you see an action, you know nothing's going to be changed. It's just running a function, running a method in that spot. And filters, it will change things. And that's essentially the difference between the two. And we'll see examples. I'm going a little bit quickly, but as we go through the different code samples, hopefully you'll get a better understanding of the difference. So how do we use them? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. So I decided to take a simple example. You have a theme. You're building a new site. You have a theme. You want to put Google Analytics in your site so that you can track all your visitors. So it used to be, we're going to get later on to what you're supposed to do now, but it used to be you're supposed to put the Google Analytics code in the footer. So this is, I don't know if you can see this, but this is code for the footer of the 2012 theme. And there's two places where there are actions. There's one over here, and there's one down here. They look different. The one over here says do action 2012 credits. The one over here says WP footer with the parentheses. So what's the difference between the two? They're actually the same. This is the WP footer function, and it says do action as well, WP footer. So they're both actions, and basically what it's saying is run something here. Anything that is registered to run with WP footer, run here. And so this is our code. You would pop this into your functions.php file, and the first line it says add action WP footer, which is the name of the action we want, and then add GA code. That's the name of the function that we want to run when it gets the WP footer. This is that function, and it basically just spits out the Google Analytics code. And if you open up your browser, the developer tools, you can see, boom, right in the footer, it was popped in. That's what actions are. It's really simple. Out in the wild. So we dealt with WP footer. WP head is very similar. It's just in the head of your page. So this isn't not in the body, but in the head, where all the meta tags are. So if you want to add in meta tags, your own custom meta tags for, let's say, Facebook or something else, you can pop it up in there. Init is very powerful. I use this all the time. This is before any headers were sent to the visitor's browser. Once you start sending headers to the browser, it's too late to redirect the visitor. So if anything you want to do before the visitor comes to the page, if you might want to redirect them somewhere else, this is where you put it. WP and Q scripts, use this. This is the correct way to add scripts, JavaScript to your site. The content, the excerpt, the first three were actions. These two are filters. As I mentioned before, one of the differences between actions and filters is actions do things, filters change things. So the content and the excerpt, well, let's say you want to change the excerpt. Let's say it's too short, you want to make it longer. You would call this filter. The content, you want to pop in, social buttons before your content, or hot link anytime your site is mentioned. You would use this filter. I'll have code examples later. I'm just talking a little bit about what these are, why you might use them. And post class, body class, you can leverage these to add specialized classes to either the body of your page or the post, the element that contains your post. And this is really great for front-end developers. If you want to add special classes to special pages, you can have customized CSS for those pages, and you can make your site look different across the board by just adding a different class into the header. So out in the wild, these are links. I'll be posting this if any of you want to use them. The first two are links to the WordPress Codex site, the action reference and the filter reference. These are really helpful if you're trying to figure out what's the best way to add something into this part of the site. You can easily check it up. Also, Adam Brown has a great directory. And if anyone uses the Genesis theme, if you build it on top of it, they have over 50 hooks and filters that you can leverage, and the bottom link is to that. So tips and tricks, top 5. Tip number 5, there are hooks in the admin area as well. So let's say you're managing a team of editors and of authors on your site, and one of them keeps forgetting to save their post. To publish it. So this action, I don't think you can see it from here, but it says edit form after title, and then I have the function name, and the function just echoes out, don't forget to save. And you can see it says don't forget to save. Number 4, detect visitor browsers. So the visitor's browser. WordPress already in the core detects which browser the user that's visiting the site is using, whether it's Chrome, Safari, Gecko, iPhone, and these are global variables that you can access from anywhere. So this is code that you can pop right into your functions.php that will add a class to the body of your site indicating which browser it is. So this is the body class filter and browser body class. And you'll notice on this one, this is a filter. You'll notice one of the differences with the function itself is over here there's a variable. That's one of the main differences between actions and filters. You can actually change something. We want to change the class's variable that will later on be outputted into the classes of the body tag. So here it goes through the different global variables asking, is it a Lynx browser? Is it a Gecko browser? And if it is, add the right class. And that way when the page loads, it'll have the class of the browser of the visitor on the page, and you can build your theme more specific. Number 3, get notified on every new blog post. Let's say you have a team of 50 writers on your site, and you want to get an email every time someone posts something to your site, so you can check it to make sure it's really okay. So this is on published post. You wouldn't want it on necessarily every time someone saves a post, but when someone publishes a post, you want an email. So that's what the action does. Publish post, when it publishes, it goes through all the things it has to do when it publishes. It finds another function, notify via email, and that's what this does. It'll shoot out an email when something is published. Hidden admin page displaying all settings. Inside WordPress, there's a hidden page that has all of the settings of the site. So if you want to make a special link to that in the admin bar, in the menu bar on the side, that's what this would do. The admin menu action is very powerful. There's a whole family of actions related to it. If you find it in the codex that talks about it, there's all the related actions at the bottom. And that's how, when you install a plugin, you'll see new menus in the sidebar. So that's what you would want to leverage. And number 1, for all of you who build themes for clients, raise your hands. This one you'll love. The login screen has the WordPress logo, and it links. If you click that, it'll link to WordPress.org. So this will change that for you. These are 2 filters and an action. The first one, login head URL. This changes that URL, so you can have it linked to the homepage instead of WordPress.org. The second one, login header title, that changes the title of the link, so when you mouse over the logo, it'll say your site name instead of WordPress. The last one will change the logo, because it's the logo is being displayed using CSS. So what this does is it outputs into the login head of the page CSS, and it changes it to display a different logo. So spin your own. Remember this that we did before to output the Google Analytics code? So I said before that we were going to put in the footer. But actually, if you read Google's instructions, it says you should put it in the body at the very, very top, right as the body tag opens. So how are we going to do that? There's no actions right there. So we're going to add our own. This is my header.php of my theme. And right after the body tag, I'm adding in do action, quote, open body. There are no actions in any directories anywhere named open body, unless there's one I missed, but none in the WordPress core named open body. So I just pop that in there. And now WordPress knows when it's reading the file, when my server is reading the file, it comes there, it says, oh, here's a new action. Let me see what I'm supposed to do there. Now we go back to the code we popped into our functions.php, and instead of saying WP footer, I'm changing it to open body, and that's it. It's as easy as that. Actions are really, really great to, whoops. Where are we? We'll keep it here. Actions are really, really easy to use, and they're really great. If you're building a theme that other people will be using, building a plugin other people will be using, leverage this. Play with it, break it, use it until you get it working, because it's great. Here's a little bonus one. I talked before about being a front-end developer. I use JavaScript a lot. One of the fun things about JavaScript is you can do things asynchronously, meaning you can do more than one thing at once. PHP, it sort of runs through a list of functions, and when it finishes one, it moves to the next. And when you have a powerful server, that's great. But let's say you want every time someone saves a post, it takes all of the blog posts on your site and turns it into a nice EPUB that your readers can download. That'll take a long time. So every time someone saves the page, it'll take a long time saving everything. It's a pain. But if you can do it asynchronously, meaning you tell it, go in your own time, take care of this, and then continue saving it, every time someone saves the post, it'll go ahead and do that. However, you won't have to wait for it to finish to see that the post actually saved. So we're going to use the save post action here and plug into cron. WordPress has cron events. Has anyone heard of cron events? Yeah. So cron is a way that usually it's only on the server. You have to set it up in Apache. It's a pain. WordPress has built in its own sort of flavor of cron. It's not true cron that it works on time, but every time the page is loaded, WordPress checks to see if there's any cron jobs to do. So if you have regular traffic to your site, will run regularly. So basically, you're telling it, next time someone loads this page, make sure to do this on the side. And you have asynchronous coding. So back out in the wild, I want to go back through that list that we had before. And now that you see how it works, can you guys think of any other ways that you would leverage any of these? Any problems you've had that you might want to leverage? Hands? Nope. So any questions?
Is it fair to say that granted actions allow you to change things, filters don't? So would there be an action for every filter?
No. Actions allow you to do things. Filters allow you to change things.
I'm sorry.
Right.
But, so then would there be applicable filters for every single action?
Not one for one, but for instance, there's an action called, I think, the post, and another one called the content. The post is an action, the content is a filter. The post is an action that runs right before the post is displayed. The filter equivalent, the content, lets you actually change the content that's about to be displayed. So if you wanted to add social buttons to your site, you could do it one of two ways. You could either use the action the post and just have it echo out the buttons, or you could use the filter, the content, and have it attach at the beginning of the content, connect the two strings. So you make a string of all the buttons, and connect it to the string that you're getting of all the content, and then continue it through. Does that explain the difference? Other questions? Okay. Yes.
Go back on the screen. So I just want to, the presentation, I love Jack's presentation and what he gave you, and there's a lot of code snippets that you're going to be able to use, but I just wanted to give you a couple of beginner tips, if that's okay, just things that some of the beginners may want to know. So, how many people here use, how many people use maybe like a parent-child theme? Genesis, any of them, right? How many people have bought a theme? Even more importantly. Okay, so you buy a theme or use a parent-child theme, you can make a child theme out of that, and then not have to modify the main parent. Every theme is a good practice. 99.9% of the themes have it. WP head and WP footer in almost every theme. Okay, so you can automatically attach stuff to the head and automatically attach stuff to the footer. Exactly what Jack just said. Anything you want. You're literally putting content there without changing Genesis, for instance. Okay, you bought Genesis, you don't want to change the code, as Jack mentioned. If you upgrade it, you lose all those changes. So that's what Jack's talking about, the action. It's a hook. You're actually hooking on to WP head and putting things there. You're hooking on to WP footer and putting things there. You can put credits there. You can put Google Analytics, all kinds of stuff you were talking about, right? Does that make sense? Okay, filtering, because you had that question before, so I was going to explain. Filtering is actually taking content, taking something from the WordPress database, taking something and changing it. You're filtering it out. So even that content that you write in the content box, you can have your theme change that. Pulls it filters it, and puts something else out there. That's how, as Jack mentioned, a lot of the social plugins work. Like when you activate a social plugin, how does it magically appear underneath your content? It just does, right? Well, most of them are taking your content, attaching the social icons to it, and giving it back to WordPress and saying, this is the content. WordPress doesn't know the difference, and WordPress now has content in the social icons. So it literally filters. That's how a lot of the social icons work. Does that make sense? So that's what filtering is. The reason I'm bringing this up is when I first learned it, it was really confusing to me. Like I didn't understand what filtering was and the hooks were and all that other stuff. So themes usually have at least 2 hooks. WP head, WP footer. That's really good practice. If they don't have it, they actually will not be allowed in a .org directory. They're off. Okay, until they put it back on. Because they have to be on there. Because so many plugins rely on it. And then, as Jack mentioned, Genesis has all of their other hooks. They have a ton more. And Woo themes may have some. They have their custom hooks. So again, you're able to do that. And then if you look at WordPress, WordPress has 1,000 hooks and filters. Things you can do all sorts of things. And you just need to use the references that Jack gave you to find them. And the fun ones that I like are the ones on the admin where he said, don't forget to save this. It's like the easiest thing to do. He wrote it in 3 lines of code. So it's a lot of fun to do that kind of stuff. And we'll bring up that code after. So. Someone had a question there?
I'll just say a good way to explain it. Any plugin that uses, any custom scripts like jQuery or fancy docs or anything like that will always use WP_head hook to add that code into their plugin without actually, hard coding it onto the header. So I thought that would be another good.
Right, that is a good example.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you'll look into support forums and you'll see a support forum and someone will say, we'll literally give like a path to a WordPress core file and say to delete this or edit this out. And if you do that, the next time you upgrade WordPress, it's going away.
That's a big mistake.
And you also may be opening a security hole. That's another thing you do. So look for the hook, look for the filter. There's a lot of references out there. There's a lot of places to do it, and it's really easy to do. It's really easy. Once you get the hang of it, it's really easy to add do them. And then you can add them in yourself. Literally, it's one line of code to add in your own hook or filter. Is there another question? Yeah.
So I understand why you would use this when you're working with somebody else's theme or if you're releasing a theme for other people to work with. But if you're just coding a custom theme, can you think of any good examples why you would want to use hooks on the front end as opposed to just writing some code into the header?
If you're writing your own theme for yourself?
Yeah.
So the question was, if you're writing your own theme for yourself, trying to use it to put in hooks or filters. You know,
To make it local, like, you wouldn't want to have one functions.php file that's like 500 lines long. You might want to break things up, or like create like a template tag and have it inside there too. So.
And you might switch your theme sometime too. I mean, it's always a matter of you want to keep functionality. Programmers like to keep functionality separate from display.
Yeah. Like a good example is like there's all those custom like what was it, the related posts plugins or bunch of those other. You might want to use a filter for that. So we'll grab something, massage it, and then pump it back out into the script so it's not. You can use that as a filter.
And you might build another theme where you might want to have the same functionality. If you build a really cool, functionality for one theme, you might want to build another theme that has that same functionality. So that theme, you have a plugin that plugs into each theme without, putting in each functions.php. You have huge functions.phps for all your themes.
Or you may not want. Like if your own theme, and you're doing your own site, then it doesn't really, you're gonna want to do. If you think maybe you're gonna write some plugins for your site, maybe you want to keep some content separate. Google Analytics is a perfect example. Like why put that in your theme if you're gonna switch your theme? You have it as a separate plugin, hooked to the WP footer or WP head or a custom function, then you can change your theme all day long. And Google Analytics is always gonna be there, right? It's separate from the theme. Yeah.
One other reason is that you can use conditionals in a filter or a hook. So if you're getting really advanced templating, then each particular template you can check if you're on the home page, if you're on a single page, if you're on whatever, and do different display things. You can't do that otherwise in the theme template files.
That's a good example as well. You might want to write one function that maybe does something a little different on different theme templates. And you can just add it, use a hook to hook into that page or put the function into the code itself.
All these hooks do go into functions.php, right?
The hook code, the code to generate the actual output, or yes, we go into function.php or your plugin. But the hook itself, WP head, WP footer, or any custom hooks you put into your theme, go in your theme. Using do action. So Jack had before, do action tells WordPress that there's an action that should happen here. You would do that yourself. So, yeah.
Let's say order of execution on the hook. If you have something in a plugin or it's also in your function, you assign multiple functions to the same hook.
Hooks have priorities, just like most other functions. So it's numeric actually, and I think the default is 10.
Right, default is 10, 1 is the highest priority.
Actually, there's a little trick. You can go negative numbers on priorities. So if you don't put a priority on your action, it's just going to be 10 by default. If you want to run last, 9. If you want to run first, you're going to have to go negative, and that's a little trick that a lot of people don't know. You can actually put -1, -2, -3, and it will run before the zeros. So it gets a little tricky because if you have a bunch of plugins on your installed, they have priorities too, and it's tough to sort of figure it out. I've written plugins that I want to run absolute last, and I put 9, and 9 times out of 10 it works. But sometimes you get a plugin that puts 9.
There is a cool plugin called WP Hook Inspector, and you wouldn't want to run it on production, only when you're testing. But yeah, the WP Hook Inspector will give you like the breakdown of everything that's running and at what point they're executing.
Any other questions? You guys got hooks? You guys go home and write hooks and filters? Use Jack's code? If you use a parent theme or a child theme, you're going to need to use hooks and filters because you don't want to modify your stuff. If you want to have fun in the admin, there's a lot of cool hooks and filters things. Yeah.
Just to share, one of the places that I find this the most now, if there's anyone here who's working with commerce, independent of whatever theme you may use, if it doesn't do what your client wants the site to look like, this is the trick. Everything inside of this by action.
So you're saying WooCommerce has a lot of actions and filters built in it?
Everything.
Awesome. And a lot of the good plugins and themes do, because they want you to modify their code without modifying your code. In this way, WooCommerce is a perfect example. You can modify, you can add all things to it, all kinds of hooks and filters to it, and the next time you upgrade WooCommerce, your changes are still there. You didn't edit the actual core plugin file. Anything else? Sorry I stepped in here, just want to get some beginner. Because I know when I first learned this, I had no clue. I was writing stuff and all of a sudden things were like showing up. I was like, this is awesome. I got stuff to show up. I didn't realize what was going on. Filters to me, are harder concept to understand, but if you take that social icon example I gave, that was the way I understood it better. That's how it attaches. So I ended up writing a social plugin that did that, so it worked out. It worked out pretty well. That's it. No questions? If that's it, then you're free to go. So if you want to hang out, you should just check questions. If you want to hang out, yeah.
Yeah, within the, I'm noticing, the editor, I'm assuming this is Sublime.
No, this is, I don't remember what it's called. I downloaded it for Mac. It's $5 in the store.
You have a question about Sublime text?
If this was Sublime, I just wanted to know what plugin you would that you use, I have AC or JavaScript.
For Sublime?
Yeah.
I use Sublime actually, and
They have PHP built in.
yeah, there's people, PHP's built in, right? But they have there is a WordPress. I don't know what it's called, plugin, add-on, extension. I forgot what it's called. I used it for last year. And if you email me, I'll verify it. It's pretty cool. It finishes the functions for you. It does everything. It has all of
There's
it.
so many of them. You just get to the habit of installing things, some of them click and,
Yeah.
you know.
You should go to the Sublime Text Meetup. Any other questions? Folks, filters, we got it? All right, cool. I guess we'll see you next month. Thank you.